Why do average Joe Republicans think the GOP cares about them? Now, what I respectfully wonder about this Tony guy who originally asks the question to Kyle Kulinski is, did he bother to ask any conservatives or registered Republicans on why they think that the GOP cares about them? Or did he just go straight to Kyle thinking that he was the genius suddenly of the right? I mean, who better to ask of why average Joe Republicans think that the GOP cares about them? Who better to ask that than an actual average Joe Republican? And so that is why I am here, to answer this question in the title of the video and to get the record straight with Kyle Kulinski and his fan base.
Tony asks, Kyle, been watching for a year now. Could you explain why the Republican base doesn't seem to get that the Republican Party doesn't at all care about their interest?
The statement that the GOP doesn't at all care for the interests of the GOP base is complete and utter bullshit, because the GOP base is pro-life and pro-gun rights, and those are the two issues that generally Republicans at least stand firm on. Everything else, yes, they are kind of spineless on, but gun rights and abortion, definitely not, generally at least.
That's a superb question, and this is one of the few of all the questions where I actually jotted down some stuff.
So you went up to an average Joe Republican and asked him why he thinks the GOP cares about him.
Because I had to really stop and think about it, like, ooh, why is it that the Republican base...
No, I didn't think he would.
Why is it that the Republican base has totally and utterly fallen for the most obvious frauds in the country, the people in the Republican Party? That's not to say the Democrats are good, they're not.
But to you, it's more understandable why people would support the Democrats over the Republicans, right?
But I mean, the Republicans are so obviously terrible.
That's your opinion, Kyle.
And there are people who've fallen for them, and they really think, like, no, they're the answer.
And the Democrat Party is the answer, as opposed to the Republican Party? Okay, let's cut it out with the establishment two-party narrative that you're trying to give off here. Now, believe me when I say that most of my friends and family are self-proclaimed conservatives and are registered Republicans, and not one of them touts out and says, oh, the Republican Party is the answer. Establishment, we must support them all the way. No, most of them either want to reform the party and bring it to more conservative values as opposed to the establishment pro-Bush, pro-Mitch McConnell agenda that we have going on in the Republican Party. Or they want to switch to a new party, like the Libertarian Party, for example.
So how is that? Well, few things. First of all, their lives are, in many respects, fucked up, and they're victims of a shitty system. So it's not all like they're just bad people. So they are victims of a shitty system that's left them behind. But in their mind, you put complete and utter blame for that on big government.
And you have something against that, Kyle? Are you saying you like big government? Now, I know that you proclaim yourself to be a social democrat, but you also proclaim yourself to be a left-leaning libertarian, or a libertarian leftist, rather. And let me tell you, there is nothing very libertarian about being for big government. So...
And in their mind, the Democrats represent big government.
For the record, Kyle, most of us don't think that Republicans represent small government.
Even though there are countless areas where the Democrats actually believe in smaller government than the Republicans, they don't care. They don't think about it in a nuanced way.
Kyle, you're one to talk about nuance right now, considering the fact that you are generalizing an entire support base as one big monolith. Now, I know that Kyle here, that he defers people, that he says that not all Republicans are hateful and horrible people, but that's about all the nuance that he gets. Other than that, he generalizes us all as for the Republicans and everything that they stand for.
They don't think about it like, well, every Republican is in favor of the NSA virtually.
The Democratic Party is pretty comfortable with using the NSA as well, Kyle.
And there are some Democrats who actually want to roll it back.
And on that note, there are some Republicans who want to roll back NSA as well, namely Rand Paul for one. I'm not going to go through the entire Republican Party name by name, record by record of who is for and against the NSA, but otherwise I'll be at this video all day.
So aren't the Democrats in favor of smaller government there? Aren't the Democrats in favor of small government when they want to end the war on drugs?
Aren't the Republicans in favor of smaller government when they want to roll back government regulations on business?
The ones that do, and they want to let people out of prison and stop jailing nonviolent drug offenders?
Perhaps they are, but they aren't very pro-small government for when they want to punish people just merely for speaking out against the belief that is climate change.
Aren't the Democrats favor of small government when they say, hey, let's let a woman make her own choice with her body? Aren't the Republicans in favor of big government?
Okay, I was willing to agree with Kyle on the last few criticisms that he had with the Republican Party, but the issue of abortion, which I presume that is what he is meaning by letting a woman choose what she wants to do with her body, but the issue of abortion is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, against abortion, that is. And if you want to say that being against abortion is a pro-big government belief, well, then you'll have to say that being for laws against murder, that is a big government issue as well. It is not a pro-big government issue if you are against people violating other people's rights, and that is, we believe that the unborn have the right to life, the most basic of rights right there. So again, if you're going to say that it is a pro-big government position to be against abortion, then you're going to have to also say that it is a pro-big government position to be for laws against murder, against rape, against assault, against any of those heinous acts that some piece of shit will want to commit. Now, some of you are obviously going to disagree with me on that line of thinking, but I am just telling you right now that that is how we conservatives, we pro-life, anti-abortion conservatives justify it, of how it is not a pro-big government position. That it is just the government protecting the rights of one party against the acts of another party.
They don't really think it all through, but they just think in a vague, generalized way, Democrat equals big government.
Aren't the Democrats for big government when they want to increase the minimum wage, when they want to force employers to pay a certain wage that they don't want to their employees? Aren't they for big government when they want to force employers to cover their employees when they don't want to? Aren't the Democrats for big government when some of them want to give the entire monopoly of health care to the government via a single payer system? Aren't the Democrats for big government when they want to enforce a carbon tax on us? Aren't the Democrats for big government when they want to enforce an individual mandate that everybody has to have health insurance or else pay through the nose through your tax refunds? Aren't the Democrats for big government when they want to heavily regulate or even ban guns for that matter?
Big government is the source of all of my problems. So then it becomes a rational thing if you buy into that framework to go, well, Republican. Republican is the answer.
How often do you vote for the Democrats in any election, Kyle? Does that mean that you believe that the Democrats are the answer? Cut it out with this whole average Joe Republicans think that Republicans are the answer bullcrap, because we don't. We don't think that. You would be more accurate in your argument if you was to say the GOP base is locked into this two-party system. That would be a more accurate argument, but that is not your argument. Your only argument here is to slander the GOP base as nothing but a bunch of establishment shills.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is the Republicans have done a good job of pandering to dim bulbs, in that for whatever reason, Republicans tend to buy more into the vague, platitude, cliche way of talking.
Republicans are a bunch of racist, bigoted, homophobic, sexist, hateful, fear-mongering, war-mongering hacks. That is not a vague platitude of talking, Kyle. I mean, come on, cut me a freaking break.
The Democrats, they're not immune to that, but there is a little bit more skepticism among the Democrats because most scientists are left-leaning and most, skeptics and intellectuals are left-leaning. So there is more skepticism on the left.
I don't know, there was a whole lot of skepticism with the GOP base when a whole lot of us voted third party for Evan McMullin and Gary Johnson.
On the right, they really fall hook, line, and sinker for the platitudes and the cliches and the flowery bullshit rhetoric and the nonsense.
Flowery bullshit, huh? So I guess the Republican Party is not as much of fear-mongers as people paying them off to be. I mean, if all their bullshit is flowery.
So the Republicans have effectively co-opted the language of Christianity and conservative traditional values, where they talk about your lifestyle is under attack. Hey, the gays are now going to get married, and then your daughter is going to marry a woman, and you know, all these alternative lifestyles are threatening what you know from your parents, and you know, you're dying out, you're an old breed dying out, and we're here to protect you.
Okay, I'm going to agree with Kyle and say that I don't agree with that bit of rhetoric that fundamentalist Republicans seem to occasionally or often put out. But at the same time, that is not one of my big issues. We'll get to that in a moment of what are my big issues and what I would say are the big issues for the GOP base generally.
We're here to protect you. So we'll stand up for Christian values and conservative values and all these things. And then it doesn't even matter to them at that point if one of their own gets caught in a scandal where they're not practicing what they preach, because they go, I don't care. They're for a bigger truth. The bigger truth is they're fighting to keep society to be traditional. They're fighting to keep society to be Christian. So I'm going to side with them even if they have their own problems, like, you know, a Republican who cheats on his wife or gets caught doing a gay sex act or gets caught with drugs or whatever.
That is just a very ironic thing that you just said, Kyle, because the Democrat base voted for one of the biggest scandalous lying hacks ever for the Democratic nomination for presidency, and in overwhelming numbers voted for her so much to beat Donald Trump in the popular vote. I mean, you even admit that Hillary Clinton is a big scandalous hack. So, what the frick are you talking about?
No, it doesn't matter, because they're for the bigger truth. Even though they violated their own principles, they still believe in those principles of Christianity and conservative values and traditionalism, that they're still better than the Democrats who want debauchery. So that's the other part of it. Now, the third part of it is, I think, my reading of the situation, and I've had personal experience of this with family members. When you talk to somebody who really believes the Republicans are the party of the little guy, the Republicans are the party of the average Joe, and even the poor in some respects, what do they say? They say, oh, they believe in tax cuts. Hey, the Republicans believe in tax cuts. I want to keep more of my own money. Full stop. They want me to keep more of my own money, so I like them more. The Democrats want to take my money, and they want to give them to undeserving people. You know, parasites, moochers, lazy on purpose, can work but choose not to work.
Ha! Finally, he is starting to understand the GOP base. Generally, everybody in the Republican voting base is for cutting welfare and not giving our tax dollars to lazy people. And this also applies for abortion as well and many other services.
This is the caricature they've set up in their own mind about many Democrats and many minorities.
Race bait much, Kyle?
So they think, well, they're the party looking out for me because they want to cut my taxes and let me keep more of my own money. Now, they happen to be dead wrong about this on so many levels because the Democrats actually cut taxes more for the middle class and the poor. The Democrats only raise taxes on the top 1%, maybe 2% of society, the richest of the rich, and you ain't one of them. So it's the Republicans who raise taxes more for the middle class and the poor. So they've effectively marketed something that is complete and utter bullshit. We're the party of tax cuts, we're the party of tax cuts, we're the party of tax cuts. They ain't talking about you, bitch, but you fell for it.
You know, I would really hate to be a family member of you, Kyle, if you really refer to your family members as a bitch. Again, I'm not going to shill for the entire Republican Party, but he says that it is complete and utter bullshit that Republicans cut taxes. But here I have from the Daily Caller an article that says, when inaugurated, Reagan inherited a nation with 16 tax brackets, ranging from marginal rates of 14 to 70%. By 1989, that was down to 2 brackets with marginal rates of 15 and 28%. So, if we're to assume that the middle class was everywhere else in between those 2 tax brackets, that would mean that all in all, their income taxes gone down. But those at the bottom rung of the income taxes, they would have raised by 1%, granted. And for all of you who think that I am selectively reading this article from the Daily Caller, no, the article does say that Ronald Reagan actually did increase some taxes, but he definitely decreased income taxes for everyone. And there's also plenty of evidence out there that Republican governors and legislatures throughout the United States are eliminating the income tax across the board in their proper states. But granted, they are also increasing other taxes to compensate for that, like sales tax, for example. And I don't know about you guys, but I would rather that kind of system. I would rather that I be taxed while I'm spending rather than before I'm spending.
So this is why I think many people fall for the Republican line. All you have to do is buy into certain things, just a couple, a certain framework of how they view the world, and then everything else flows naturally from that, and you can rationalize and you can justify it, and you can really convince yourself that they're the good guys and the Democrats are the bad guys.
So to recap this video of Kyle Kulinski, he all in all does not understand why the GOP base supports the Republican Party. Again, I'm not going to defend the entire Republican Party. I mean, what he mentions about big government regarding the war on drugs and so on and so forth, and say gay marriage, for example, I'll agree with him on that. I don't agree with him on his review of abortion regarding that, but I do agree with him on that, and so do many Republicans as well. Many Republicans agree that the NSA should be cut back, that it should be less overreaching, the NSA, and that the war on drugs should be ended. And most of us think that gay marriage should be decriminalized, which it already is thanks to the SCOTUS ruling of 2015, but there are a whole lot of us libertarian caliber conservatives who support the Republicans, but there are a whole lot of bigger issues that we have into consideration than those other issues like the war on drugs and so forth. The thing with Kyle is that he is brandishing all out to be a whole bunch of lockstep Republicans. I mean, yes, granted, you could say that maybe about a third to a half of us registered Republicans are lockstep Republicans who will vote and support the Republican politicians on every issue and agree with them on every issue. In the whole video, he really fails to realize of why it is that the GOP base supports the Republican Party. He mentions because we don't want moochers, and the Republicans are not for giving taxpayer dollars to moochers. He got that right, but he failed to mention gun rights and the way that he mentioned abortion as well. It was so skewed, but definitely gun rights. He failed to mention that completely. Republicans are generally for gun rights. I mean, despite most of them being a bunch of crony capitalist establishment hacks, they're still getting some issues right. I mean, they obviously are fiscally incompetent all in all, but at least they are resisting the Democrats on the minimum wage. That is at least one thing that the establishment has been resisting the Democrats on back during Obama's tenure, was the raising of a minimum wage. And gun rights as well. 2013, the legislation to ban semi-automatic rifles and to ban high-capacity magazine. The Republicans at least resisted on that. So, good for them. And that is the reason why, that is one of the pinnacle reasons why the GOP base supports the Republicans, is gun rights. Republicans could be wrong on everything else, but they support that one issue, that one position that we hold near and dear to our hearts, and that is our gun rights. We like to self-defend. We like our ability to self-defend ourselves from criminals and from, of course, an all-tyrannical government as well. And he fails to mention it. For the record, during 2016, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Evan McMullin. I even voted for the two libertarian candidates who ran versus Jerry Moran and Mike Pompeo in their respective elections. And I would have voted for Chris Rockhold over Ron Estes, except I did not know what Chris Rockhold's position on abortion was. But the reason why I generally vote Republican is not because of their position on NSA, like Kyle mentioned, not because of their position on the war on drugs, not because of their social positions, like on LGBT rights and that other sort of stuff, but it's because of gun rights and economic liberty. I mean, that's the one thing that Republicans all in all have above Democrats, is economic liberty. Gun rights, abortion, economic liberty. Those are the reasons why. And if anybody wants to convince me why being for gun rights, against abortion, and for economic liberty is such an evil thing, well then go ahead, try to convince me, and try to convince the entire GOP base of why we're all wrong. But until you all convince every single average Joe Republican that they are wrong on gun rights and abortion and economic freedom, do not expect any of us to do anything but generally vote for the opposition party of the Democrats, that being the Republicans. Hey guys, if you liked the video, smash that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. If you want to see me respond to a specific video or article, comment down below with a link to the said article or video, and I might consider responding to it. Thanks for watching the video, and God bless.